Good morning. It is 10 o'clock, and welcome to Lincoln Ware Live. We're here every Sunday morning from 10 until 11. And as usual, we've got a great show lined up for you today. The first half of the show, we're going to talk to the Ohio State Patrol. And they're, putting up some more checkpoints, and they're going to be very visible after Bengals games. Something that I've said for years. When they started the checkpoints here in this area, I said, hey, why don't they put up a checkpoint right outside the Bengals Stadium after a game? They would catch a lot of people. I've said that for years. Well, guess what? Now it's going to pretty much happen. And then on the second half of the show, I've got the interim superintendent for Cincinnati Public Schools, Mary Noonan. She's going to be my guest, and we're going to talk to her about what's upcoming for Cincinnati Public Schools. And we're looking forward to talking to her on the second half of the show. But right now, let's get to the Ohio State Patrol. Lieutenant McElfresh, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Now, tell us a little bit about the new crackdown outside of Paul Brown Stadium. I guess the surrounding areas like Kentucky and Ohio, you're going to crack down on both sides of the river after games. What's going to happen?
Right. Well, what we noticed when we looked through historical crash data and looked through arrest data, what we noticed is there was a higher percentage of crashes on Bengals home games. Mm-hmm. Some of those crashes, of course, were, I guess unfortunately you could say, were a result of somebody who chose to drink and drive. And then again, we noticed that the DUI arrests were higher. Pretty much what it comes down to, you have 60-some thousand people converge in one location. In that location, there are adult beverages.
They're drinking before the game.
They're drinking before the game and during the game. So the Ohio State Highway Patrol now, we try to be so proactive. We used to be an organization that was always reactive. If a problem surfaced someplace, we would attack that problem. So I guess what we're trying to do is be proactive and try to curb a problem before it becomes one later on. And unfortunately, the problems that we deal with sometimes will cost somebody their life.
Now, what are the Bengals saying about this? When they first heard about this, were they on board with it or what?
Actually, a friend of mine who is in charge of player security for the Bengals, I was introduced to him about a year and a half ago through a friend. Mm-hmm. So I've been working with the Bengals now for about a year and a half, and it's kind of an information exchange. And when I first struck up that relationship with him, I said, hey, at some point I want to get something out of this. And probably about a month ago, just after they were almost done with training camp, and I gave him a call and I said, hey, this is what we want to do. Based on the information that we have, we want to try to educate as many people as possible. And I said, how about a PSA out of the deal? And he said, hey, let me bounce it off the Bengals. He spoke with Bengals management, put it out to the players, Chinnaman Dukwe, the safety, and Shane Graham, the kicker, without hesitation jumped up and wanted to be a part of that public service announcement that we developed.
And I guess people will see that on TV sometime next week? Or?
Right, yeah, we shot it last week. It's in final production with our production unit in Columbus now. And it's going to air during some of the Bengals pre-games, and it's going to air and all the monitors in the stadium, as well as a couple of times on the Jumbotron each day, and just impacting as many people as possible within that venue to try to say, hey, if you have had too much to drink, then either make sure you find somebody that's a designated driver or call a taxi to get yourself home.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and talk about DUI checkpoints. Have you ever been stopped at a DUI checkpoint? We want to hear from you, 381-3838 or 651-3838, and we'll find out what happens at a DUI checkpoint when we return in just one moment. We are back live. Lincoln Ware Live is the program. Want to hear from you at 381-3838. Have you ever been stopped at a DUI checkpoint? What happens? Thank goodness I've never been stopped at one, but I don't know exactly what would take place if I did get stopped at one. I want to hear your experiences, and tell me, Lieutenant McElfresh, what happens? You're driving home, and maybe you had one or two drinks. You don't think you're intoxicated, but you pull up on this DUI checkpoint, and then you have to get in line, And wait, what happens when you finally pull up to the police officer? What's the first thing that happens?
Well, maybe if we could back up just a little bit. A lot of those checkpoints that we put in place are because of that proactive mindset. Looking at the historical crash data, when we see that there is a higher percentage of DUI-related crashes in one particular area, then that's where we try to focus one of those checkpoints.
It's not, and let's dispel the myth, it's not just in the black community you put up the checkpoints, because I get calls like that all the time. Well, they only put them up in the black community outside the black clubs. We hear that a lot.
No, just about every post in the area, and most of your viewers would probably have contact with troopers from Batavia, from Hamilton, and from the Lebanon Patrol Post. Each one of those counties has about 3 to 4 checkpoints. As a matter of fact, we had one last night in Clermont County on State Route 125. And, again, that's based on historical crash data where we can show in black and white saying, hey, we have a problem here. And that's where we're trying to be proactive and focus those enforcement efforts on that. So, I will assign that to one of my supervisors. He'll research the crash data. And then there are a lot of entities involved with making one of those happen. And, it's usually the State Patrol, usually a local agency that has jurisdiction within that area, the Ohio Department of Transportation. Usually we'll invite the prosecutor's office to come out to that. Sometimes a representative from the governor's safety office will come out. And then once we get it set up and get it running, for instance, the one we had last night, we had it in place from 11 p.m. until 3 a.m. We ran well over 600 cars through the checkpoint.
How many people did you stop? To get pulled over for DUI?
It was actually kind of light. When I left around 2 a.m., I believe we had 2 people that we had arrested. But it doesn't take a whole lot of time. If you come through there, generally you're only going to be stopped about 12 to 16 seconds.
Oh, is that okay?
Yeah.
What do? You shine the light in, you look at their eyes, or what do you look at?
Yeah, pretty much we'll line, we usually have 5 to 7 officers on the line. We funnel it down to one lane generally. Sometimes we'll check both directions. As you come through, you come up and the first 7 through stop. Those officers walk up, they'll present you with a card, introduce themselves, say, hey, this is what we're doing, trying to deter OVI driving. Won't take you very long, have a brief conversation, and pretty much when the officer makes contact with that person, they're looking for the condition of the eyes.
Are you sticking your nose in to see if you can smell liquor and all that stuff?
That's part of it. And if you're good to go, you're right on through. Thanks for your time.
What if there's a little question, your eyes are sort of moving back and forth? What happens then?
We'll have you exit the vehicle. One of our supervisors will get into your vehicle and drive it into what we call the diversion area. And then you'll be walked over to that diversion area where we have the camera car set up, and it's in a well-lighted environment. And at some point, if need be, we may ask you to submit to those field sobriety tests. And then if you're deemed to be under the influence, then you will be placed under arrest. And we actually have a data master machine, the breath test machine actually on site. And we'll process you as if we had stopped you any place.
Okay. And they would probably take the car. What happens? You make them park the car?
Yeah, we usually have to use a private business location, so we gain permission of them to use the private business location. But generally, most of the vehicles with the person that's arrested for DUI,
they leave the vehicle there.
Well, we usually end up towing it because we can't leave it on the private property.
Okay, so they tow it. That's money right there for towing.
Right.
Then if it's going to be in the storage, that's every day you have to pay. So getting stopped for DUI can be very costly.
It's not cheap when you look at fines, when you look at attorney's fees, when you look at court costs, record fees. I mean, there's quite a bit to it that's going to end up costing you quite a bit, and that's one of the messages we try to push is, it's just not worth it because it's going to cost you a lot in the long run.
Yeah. Now, what about the speeding? 71. I mean, from downtown up 71. I see you guys, Highway Patrol on motorcycles. You guys are just, I mean, I drove from South Carolina. I did not see one cop all the way from South Carolina till I got across the river, and I saw about 4 of them before I got up to the Pfeiffer Road exit.
Right.
What's up with that?
I guess you could say mission accomplished. What I was, one thing that with the old Highway Patrol, I guess you could say, it was kind of taboo for us to go work in a metropolitan area. What we noticed based on that crash data is that the rural fatalities were dropping, but the urban fatalities were increasing. So we struck up a wonderful working relationship with the city of Cincinnati and Chief Stryker, and we pretty much have got blessings to come into the city.
You're everywhere.
Yeah, and on a general weekday, we have different programs that we call triads, where we will actually fly one of our aviation units down and work the airspeed zones on 71, 75, 275. 275 up around the construction is a mess, so we usually have motorcycle units in there. And if you see it, then that tells me that everybody else probably sees it. And they've done some speed surveys, and the speeds within those areas
have gone down,
have drastically decreased, which that lends to not having as many crashes, not having as many injuries related to crashes, and then what we're really trying to accomplish is a reduction of fatalities within those areas.
Well, it worked for me. I definitely slow down when I'm going up through there. And you can't spot those motorcycle cops very easy. Now, they're hard to spot until you're right up on them. So, they can, so it's working. It's working, I have to admit there.
That's what we're trying to accomplish.
We had a lot of people, had been complaining about why so many state patrols down here in the Cincinnati area, even in the neighborhoods. I think you were patrolling Bond Hill and that area for a while, too.
Usually 1 to 2 weekends per month, we will actually send about 12 to 14 units to the city of Cincinnati. And Reading Road, River Road, West Side. We have a West Side team and an East Side team, and it's unbelievable how many people we've arrested for DUI, how many warrants we've taken in, and it's been a very successful program because we're able to show that there's been a very large, significant reduction in crashes and fatalities within the city of Cincinnati.
All right, so if you've ever wondered why you see the State Patrol inside the city limits, now you know. We'll take a quick break and we'll come back and wrap things up. If you want to jump on board, 381-3838, 651-3838. Lincoln Ware with you till 11 o'clock on Lincoln Ware Live. We're here every Sunday morning. We'll take a break and come right back. And we are back live. Lincoln Ware Live is the program. And don't forget, coming up, Mary Ronan, Interim Superintendent for Cincinnati Public Schools, my guest, coming up in just a few minutes. If you want to jump on board real quick and talk to Lieutenant McElfresh about the Ohio State Patrol. And you guys are always recruiting, trying to get people in there, in that patrol.
Always recruiting, yeah.
And it's not a bad gig, though, not a bad gig.
It's actually a great career. We provide all the training, provide ongoing training, have wonderful equipment. The salary is very good, the benefits are very good. So if any of your viewers are in that age group and would like to become a part of us, they can visit www.statepatrol.ohio.gov and research it for themselves and basically file their application online.
All right, let's go to the telephones. 381-3838, that's the number. Mary, good morning, how are you?
Good morning.
You have a question?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm doing great.
You're looking handsome this morning. Did your wife pick that tie?
Yes, she dressed me, physically dressed me.
No, because you really matched up.
She undressed me, so I figured she would have to dress me.
Right, that's beautiful. Congratulations.
What's on your mind this morning, Mary?
I was stopped a while ago when my boy was a little boy.
Yes.
And they told me to slow down, not to slow down, but to go faster.
Oh, well, maybe there is a minimum speed limit on the freeway.
He told me I was going too slow, and he knew I was nervous. I was real nervous and upset that day for some reason. And he told my son to help me get home and to look out and watch out for me. He was real nice.
Well, sometimes I can feel what that officer was feeling, because sometimes I want to tell you to talk a little faster, because you talk a little slow also.
Well, I'm slow. Some people just slow slow. And I also wanted to say that I don't see where the roads are safe. It looks like they're getting worse. It's a massacre out there. You hear so much death. I'm getting scarier and scarier to get out there.
And then there's a lot of road rage out there. See,
Yeah.
now if I pull up on a car like you driving too slow, driving under 40 on the freeway, I might have a few words for you.
Well, if you're nervous and you don't know where you're going,
Well,
you're
then
supposed to drive slow.
don't get on the freeway
Wait.
if you can't drive the speed limit.
Well, that was a while ago. I didn't understand the freeway so well.
Oh, okay.
I understand it better now.
Well, that's good.
But it's still scary. It's more scarier now. I'm more scared now than I was then.
All right, Mary, take the back roads from now on, okay?
I don't do too much of nothing. I stay in my house.
I can tell.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for your call. Yeah, there is a minimum, and but you see that on occasion, people just driving too slow on the freeway, and that really can cause an accident also.
And it does, yeah. And we would just ask that they at least state a minimum that's going to allow free passage of everybody. Yeah. And the road rage incidents that you mentioned, and unfortunately we have quite a few of those, and sometimes those get out of hand.
Yeah.
And on that topic, I would just recommend that use patience, don't drive aggressively. And if you can just wait a few minutes, get around that person, whatever, then that's
and what do you
we're
do
looking
if,
for.
okay, somebody, and then you have a few words, and then they pull up behind you and tell, right on your tail. What do you do in a case like that? Do you call 911? What do you do?
Well, to believe it or not, that happens probably more than you know. We routinely receive calls of road rage like that. But there's always two sides of the story, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And sometimes the prosecutors don't want to mess with it because it becomes a he said, she said deal. So the only thing, we don't want people driving aggressively. If you do find yourself involved in a situation like that, then you can call 911, provide us with as much information as you can about the vehicle.
Where you are, the mile marker, the type of car they're driving, and license plate number.
License plate would be great, and maybe a description of a driver. And then if you can get yourself into a safe location, a private lot or whatever, then we would recommend that we do that.
All right, Mary Ronan coming up in just a few minutes. Right now, LaTanya, go ahead. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. I'd like to know, how do you determine that somebody is maybe under medication, the medication may be just wearing off and they decided it's okay, well, I'm okay enough, but maybe their eyes may shift a little or something. I don't know. But at what point do you all determine that somebody is under medication or really under some type of influence? And another question, I hear a lot of people say DUI and DWI and also DWB. Do you know anything about that? Can you explain that?
Well, back to your first question, there are certain things that we look for that the human body will exhibit based on what type of narcotics that you're under, or maybe it's alcohol. Ohio law states that said person did operate a vehicle while under the influence of alcohol and or drugs of abuse. She kind of hit it on the head there with the eyes, because the eyes normally tell the tale as far as if they're on narcotics or if they're on alcohol.
Oh, okay. What's the difference?
Based on how your eyes will react, based on the dilation of your pupils. If I walk up to you and it's a bright sunny day and your pupils are completely wide open, then that tells me that there's probably something on board within your system that probably shouldn't be there.
Okay.
But there's a whole lot of factors go into that, because we have to establish probable cause before we pull you over, and then we make the initial approach and see things that establish probable cause for you to exit the vehicle, and then we'll put you through those standardized field sobriety tests.
Okay.
And then that way, that would be telling us what we're looking for, showing us what we're looking for.
Now, when you say us, is there only one person, or is there, hello?
We're here.
Is there only one person, or is there two officers making this determining factor?
Generally, it's going to be one person with
Unless it's a checkpoint.
Unless it's a checkpoint. Generally, with the highway patrol themselves, or with us, those officers are by themselves making that determination on their own. But we spend a lot of time and money training our officers to be proficient with administering those
Okay,
tests.
now we're going to have to cut you off. Go with the DUI, DWI, and whatever else.
Yeah, DUI, I guess DWI was the first, and that was driving while intoxicated, and then there was DUI, driving under the influence, and now it's OVI, which is operating a vehicle under the influence.
Okay.
So we've kind of
Now,
changed
what
those
are the
acronyms
difference?
for a
I mean,
while.
if you're driving under the influence or driving while intoxicated, it seems like that would be the same thing.
It's all the same thing. The only difference is, the D's were driving.
Okay.
They threw the O in there for operating because technically, if you're on the side of the roadway and
Not driving.
not
just
driving,
sitting there half asleep
passed out,
because you've been drinking too
right,
much.
and one of our officers make contact with you, you're still deemed an operation of that vehicle.
Okay.
So they wanted to change that description a little
Okay.
bit. Yeah.
All right. Well, we want to thank you for joining us today, Lieutenant
for having us.
McElfresh from the Ohio State Patrol. If you go to the Bengals games, you better watch how much you drink. And if you drink, you better have a designated driver to drive you home because they will be out there watching you at Bengals games. All
That's
right.
it.
Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
All right. We'll
Appreciate
take a
it.
quick break and we'll come back with Mary Ronan, Interim Superintendent of Cincinnati Public Schools. So if you've got questions about the school system, you better jump on board right now at 381-3838 or 651-3838. Back in a moment. We are back live. Lincoln Ware Live is the program. And as promised, my guest for the remainder of the show, Mary Ronan, Interim Superintendent for Cincinnati Public Schools. And I tell you what, it's been a trying week for you. Welcome to the show.
Indeed it has, and thank you very much for inviting me.
It's good to have you here. Boy, you finally got things up and running again after a hard week of schools being closed. And man, did you hear from parents? I guess they were in the dark too, so they really,
It did cut down on the number of phone calls, but we were delighted to get our children back in school on Thursday and Friday.
Now, what's going to happen? I hear the governor is planning on adding some calamity days so that you won't have to worry about this during the ice and snow season.
That would be wonderful. We get 5, and we've already used 3, and we're still in September, so there could be an ice storm in October, bad weather in December and January, so we are hoping we'll get some more days.
Now, since you've taken over, I guess the end of July, Rosa Blackwell left, and what's your vision for Cincinnati Public Schools? You're going to stay on the same course she had the public schools on? Because I thought she was doing a pretty good job up until the time she left. So you're going to stay on that course, or do you have your own course that you want to take?
We plan on staying on the same course. Our Building Future strategic plan is based on best practices, and I think over the years, Lincoln, that's part of the problem. If you change every 2 years and start over, you never get ahead. So yes, we are staying the course, but that doesn't mean this is going to be a status quo year. I plan on having a fabulous year, moving the district ahead. We are unrolling an elementary initiative Monday night to improve the low performance of 15 of our elementary schools.
Now, I know, let's just bring up last year. Taft Elementary was, Rosa came in there and just cleaned house, right? So what's ahead for Taft?
The entire school was redesigned, so the new principal, all new teachers, new plant operator, new clerical person, everyone in the building is new. And the wonderful thing is we have lots of business partners in the University of Cincinnati working with us to improve that school. But we don't want all of our low-performing elementary schools to be redesigned because that is very traumatic. When the children come back, they don't know any of the teachers. They don't know exactly. So that's why we're going to focus on these 15 elementary schools who we know are sliding down that slippery slope. They're an academic emergency, and we need to improve them before that happens.
Now, I'm hearing the commercials about tutors that are available to certain parents and things like that. Could you explain the tutoring?
Yes. If a school is in year 2 of school improvement, the district has to set aside 20% of their federal Title I dollars, and parents can contract with a tutoring company. There's about 350 vendors on the list in the state of Ohio. Some of them are great, some of them aren't so great. We're not allowed to give any kind of suggestion as to what parents or what tutoring service parents should go with.
But these tutors are paid tutors, and
They are paid probably around $2,000 a year to work with the youngsters, although we do provide after-school tutoring in all our struggling schools free of charge to all parents.
Now, what about? I see a lot of kids coming back from charter schools back to the Cincinnati public schools. A lot of them left when charter schools came out. You know, you saw a lot of people leaving. Now they say, well, this is not what we thought it was, and they're coming back to Cincinnati Public Schools. How are you handling that situation?
We always welcome our charter school parents back, but it is disruptive if parents change schools every year. And we always advise parents against that, especially changing mid-year or every year. That's not good for a child. It really disrupts their education.
All right, 381-3838, 381-3838, or 651-3838 if you've got questions for the superintendent, and she'll answer those questions here today. How often do you get a chance to talk directly to the superintendent? Well, you have a chance to do that right now on Lincoln Ware Live, so jump on the phones. Now, what about discipline? We always hear that discipline is always a problem in the classroom, in the schools. Couple of kids disrupting the classroom, the other kids don't learn. How are we making progress there?
Well, we have a positive school culture initiative where we're training all our teachers on how to deal with it. And in all honesty, if you go to our elementary schools, Lincoln, there are lovely children lined up in little uniforms, walking in single file line. Our schools are very, very orderly. And I don't think that's the perception out there. But it's true in every school. There's always a couple of children, oftentimes with emotional problems. It can be very disruptive. And we're trying to make sure the teachers have the skills and there's consistency from my classroom to your classroom on what the expectations are.
Speaking of the uniforms, how is that working? You know, I've always been an advocate of uniforms in schools. I just think that it makes for just more orderly, and you don't have to worry about the parents. For the parents, it should be great. They don't have to worry about what the kids are going to wear the next day. They know the uniform, they've got it, and they just have to put it on. How's that working?
I think a great many of our schools wear uniforms, and I think it's a great idea. The local school decision-making committee in an individual building determines whether or not we let parents know 6 months ahead of time what the uniform is going to look like, so they have the lead time to purchase the uniforms. I think the parents appreciate it. I think it's a good idea. Not all our schools, because not every school wanted to do that, but I think it is very valuable, and it reminds me of my school years. Everyone in uniform. There's just not all that trouble. And my daughter is in a school who does not wear a uniform.
Really? Oh,
no.
oh.
So I have that struggle in the morning where she can't decide what to wear, and it is agonizing.
And by the way, let's say your daughter does go to a Cincinnati public school. Yes. Okay. Now, have they been able to track the discipline in those schools with uniforms? As a discipline, you know,
You know what? I don't know the answer to that. I will have to go back and ask my testing person to take a look at that, because that's an interesting way to look at things.
That probably they don't have as many discipline problems as before they had the uniform. So check into that. That might be something. Let's take a break. We'll come right back and take your phone calls right here. We've got the interim superintendent of Cincinnati Public Schools, Ronan, with us, and we'll come back. 381-3838, 651-3838. Back in a moment. We are back. Lincoln Ware Live is the program. We're here every Sunday morning from 10 until 11. Interim Cincinnati Public Schools Superintendent. And I got a feeling she's going to get the job permanently. That's just a little hunch I have. And normally I'm right on these things.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you, Lincoln.
All right. Let's go to the telephones. Let's go to Osman. Osman, how you doing?
I'm all right. Yourself?
Pretty good. What's your question?
I was wondering about, I have a 2-year-old son who is very intelligent and very eager to be on a bus. And I'm trying to see what are y'all doing about the long wait lines that y'all having as far as early Head Start.
Okay, I don't know.
I think we're asking about preschool. We do. We have lots of preschool programs in the Cincinnati Public Schools. They are not funded by our general fund. Deb Bradshaw, our preschool director, does a great job of writing grants. Almost all of our schools have a preschool program.
So is there a number he can call to find out about the waiting list?
363-3000 is our district number, and actually preschool slots open up all during the year.
And how old is your child?
He's 2. He'll be 3 in October. He was going to Victory Neighborhood, but they closed the program down.
Yeah, I heard about that program.
Do you know what your neighborhood school is?
No.
No, okay. Well, call our central line. We have a fabulous preschool early education department, and they will give you where the openings are in our district.
Okay.
Thanks for your call. All right, let's go to Cheryl. Cheryl, good morning. You're on Lincoln Ware Live. How are you?
Fine, how are you?
Pretty good.
Good. Okay, I have 2 questions. One is, I had a child in public schools all her life. Up until this year, up until this current school year, I had to take her out and put her into a charter school because she was failing so drastically in the math and science department, and there was no tutoring. This was at Performing Arts. And because she was failing so badly and she was losing interest in the art program, well, I had to take her out and put her into math and science, which is a charter school. The other question is, I have a 3-year-old grandchild that I have been trying to get into the Silverton school. I am disabled. I can't walk. The child can't, really walk far, but I have had to walk her a couple of miles to and fro to get to Woodford and Kennedy Heights. And I live in Silverton. But I have to walk her a couple of miles each way every day. And I'm trying to find out, why do I have to, go through reestablishing this waiting list thing every year? I put her on the waiting list back in March of last year. Now I have to go through the same thing this year. And it's really, really been heck trying to get her back and forth to school.
Okay.
Is it the Montessori preschool at Woodford you're attending?
No, it's the Padilla. It's the preschool.
Oh, it's the okay. We do not provide transportation. This is a state regulation. Transportation starts at kindergarten.
Why can't she go to her neighborhood school?
She should be able to. Is Silverton your neighborhood school?
That's her neighborhood school.
But still, public schools, Cincinnati Public is not responsible for transportation for preschool. So,
but why can't she go to her neighborhood school?
She should be able to. Would you call 363-3000, our central number, and Deb Bradshaw is our preschool director. She is wonderful, and we will figure out what's
constantly
wrong. So,
for months and months, and I am getting nowhere. And I'm, in the meantime, people in the neighborhood are rooting me on in the morning and in the afternoon, telling me, you can make it, because I can't make it because I'm disabled. In the meantime, I'm dragging this little 3-year-old back and forth, and she can't make it. And I'm trying to make her to school on time. I'm trying to get over there and get her back, home in the evening. It's really hard. But they're telling me it's all about this waiting list thing. And I went through all kinds of talking to people who told me that it's a mess over here. Okay. I went through a lot of stuff talking to the Board of Education.
Just keep calling and keep bugging them.
But can get me, you have her name and number,
yeah.
And I'll personally follow up.
Okay, I'm going to put you on hold, and Cheryl, they'll get your number, and she'll give you a call, okay? All right, hold on, Cheryl. Let's go to Don. Don, how are you?
Hello, how are you?
Pretty good.
Good.
This is not Don Grady, is it? Calling from...
No, it's not.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
And I have more of a comment
than
a question. I just want to say that I think a lot of times Cincinnati Public Schools, they get a very bad rap, and a lot of parents want to pull their kids out and put them in charter schools only to have them come back and be behind. And I want to say that I've never had a problem. I've had minimum problems, I'll say that. And the teachers, I've worked well with the teachers, and they've always been very helpful. And look, this is a shout out to Sheil and Roseline Condon. So I just wanted to call in and say that they've always been very helpful. I've gotten tutoring or extra time, or we've always really worked well together with the teachers to see, how can I help my child, when they were struggling. So I just want to call and say that.
All right. Hey, thanks for your
Thank
call, and
you.
I'm sure you appreciate hearing those
that.
calls because
Thank you.
you're right. Cincinnati Public does take a bad rap, and there's a perception out there that it's just a jungle in those schools, and it's just not like that at all.
And we
Yeah.
invite anyone in to visit any of our schools on any given day. They are safe and orderly.
All right. Let's go to Inga. Inga,
Hi, how you doing?
pretty good.
Good. The question that I have is I have two kids that go to elementary, which is public, and they catch the 31. And I was wondering what number could I call to get them a bus card since they go to a public school?
What grade levels are they in? We do transport our high school youngsters on Metro, but our elementary youngsters are on yellow bus. So that's...
Is no yellow bus service able to come in our neighborhood and take them back to that neighborhood?
Well, in fact, Lincoln, if you get this caller's name and number, I will have our transportation folks call her back on Monday.
Okay, Inga?
Yes.
Hold on. I'm going to put you on hold, and Cheryl's on hold, and Don can go back there in the room and get their information, and we'll have somebody call you, okay? Thanks for your call. Let's go to Jamie. Jamie.
Yes.
I guess it's supposed to be Jamie. Go ahead.
Hi, yes. I'm calling in regards to the 15 schools that are declining in their academic performances. How many of them 15 schools are overcrowded?
Actually, very few of them. Our schools vary by year. At the start of our facilities master plan, we had 42,000 students. We were building 60-plus schools. Our enrollment has dropped. We're about at 34,000, but also the population has shifted in the city. So oftentimes it's difficult. You plan a building 3 years ahead of time. By the time the building's built, it's a little bit too small or it's a little bit too large. And we also have to negotiate with the Ohio School Facilities Commission, and they determine the number of seats you have. And if you want to go over that, we can build it, but they're not going to give you any monies from the state to do it. So that's what we're constantly having to balance. And 1 year a school's crowded, 30 or 40 extra children. Most of our schools can handle an extra 50, an extra 10% over capacity, but the next year it might be down, then the next year it's up. So it is hard to get a handle on, especially as folks move around.
Okay. And another comment is, my daughter does go to one of the overcrowded schools that is declining in academics. However, I must say that parents need to be more involved in their education, their child's education, because my daughter does go to Midway School on the west side of town, and I think the staff there is phenomenal. And the principal, I will give kudos to them. But I think the parents need to step up and be more proactive with their child's education and don't complain about their education.
You're right, because most of the successful school districts, you'll find that parental involvement is very high at those successful school districts.
Exactly. Midway is a great school. It was a bit overcrowded last year. It's leveled off this year. We see that. When we open a brand new building, that first year there's a huge bump in enrollment, but then it usually levels off in the next year or two.
Yes. Well, I thank you.
It's a beautiful building.
Yes, it is.
Thanks for your call.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, let's go to Rhonda. Rhonda, you have a question? Rhonda.
Yes. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. I'm sitting here watching you talk about Cincinnati Public Schools, and Miss Mary, you seem like a very classy woman. You probably had a very nice educational background. And I don't understand why Cincinnati Public Schools don't adapt some of the ways that St. Ursula teaches their children, some of the ways that the private schools educate, because their success rate is awesome. Maybe sometime in the future, sit down, collaborate, and give every child a chance to have that quality education. I don't care where they're from. I don't care what building they go in. Everybody should have that same education, the quality. And I live over here by St. Ursula, and those girls are the future. I don't see the same thing coming out of Woodward. And I think it should be just for the children, all the politics and money, where you get the money from and they tell you how to dictate and what to do. That all should be taken away from the table. We should educate these children with quality educations, regardless of what the situation is.
Thanks for your call. Appreciate it.
No, I agree completely. Our children deserve the very best, and we are trying. I do worry. That's the pluses and minuses of the No Child Left Behind legislation. We're teaching to the state standards, but I think we're so frantic about the test scores that oftentimes that 21st century education piece gets lost because we're so frantic about our test scores.
Hey, that's the thing. And you're teaching to pass the test. You got to teach what's going to be on the test. And there's so many other things, you know.
Exactly. A lot of teachers, they've said teaching isn't as much fun anymore because they can't, their topic that they are passionate about, it's not on the test. And can you afford 2 weeks?
You can't waste time to discuss.
It's difficult.
Yeah, that's tough.
And that private schools don't have to take the test, so they have more flexibility in what they can do.
And those private schools, those parents are paying money directly to those schools, and they're going to make sure that their kids, you know, are there and pay attention and get their work done, and they're going to be more involved. And with Cincinnati Public, you're dealing with kids who are mentally challenged, who have discipline problems, who a lot of kids are taking the ADD medicine, you know, the Ritalin and all. You're dealing with a whole bunch of different situations that private schools don't have to deal with.
Most of our private schools don't take children with disabilities, and we have almost 8,000 youngsters in our district who struggle in one way or the other. But the caller is right. Our children deserve a world-class education.
All right, let's go to Candace. Candace, good morning. You're on Lincoln Ware Live. How are you? Candace. Okay, we'll move from Candace, since she's watching on delay, and go to Deborah. Deborah.
Yes.
How are you?
Fine. How are you?
Good.
Yes, I have one of my granddaughters. She's 9 years old, and she's a special needs child, and she goes to Hoffman, and she sometimes she's supposed to be in a special education class, and so they got her in a regular classroom, and then she goes to another classroom for 1 hour. But when she goes back to the regular classroom, she just sitting there. She don't understand what they're doing.
Well, what happened to her?
Oh dear! But actually,
won't give her nothing she can do. And so I go to the school to try to complain about it, and they not doing anything to satisfy me.
Okay, hang up and listen, and we'll respond to that.
What's happening? The philosophy with children with disabilities is we feel. In fact, it's certainly nationwide that they deserve access to the regular curriculum. And they have to meet the same standards because our students with disabilities have to take the same test. So if they're sitting off in a classroom with a group of other children with disabilities all day, they aren't being exposed to the standards that they have to pass on the test. So that is true. Our youngsters with disabilities, except in the most severe cases, are in the regular classroom with the regular teacher, and we expect the special ed teacher to provide accommodations to help that child be successful in the regular classroom since they have to take the regular test. And then it sounds like she is getting some special tutoring an hour a day.
Okay. All right, Juanita.
Hi, how you doing?
Pretty good.
I got a question for you. My daughter go to Hughes. The school bus picks her up at Western Hills, Queen City, and Timberland Crest. But coming home, they only stop the bus, bring them home down at not Ferguson, down at the bottom of the hill, but it won't bring them up the hill. So therefore, she has to catch the regular school bus. And I can't figure out why, if they pick them up here, why can't they bring them back up here?
I do not know the answer to that. We'll get your name and number, and I'll have the transportation department call you back.
Thank you.
All right, we'll put you on hold. And how much time do we have? Do we have time for another call? Okay, let's go to Carlos. How you doing?
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good. What's up?
Hey, I wanted to talk to the superintendent and ask her, has she ever thought about like stepping up the curriculum for Cincinnati Public Schools for like the 12th graders, like a financial curriculum, or teaching them about stocks, better preparing them, for actual life? Because I had a teacher when I was in.
We were just talking about that, Carlos, and you do have a program like that, don't you?
Yes, in fact, Carlos, you're ahead of your time. We've actually now are required by law to teach our high school students as part of the curriculum financial literacy. And we're working on incorporating that into our economics classes at the high school level. But you're right, our students do need that, and statewide they are being required.
How about that?
Yeah, because I feel that a lot of parents, they're taking their kids to like private schools, and I believe that Cincinnati public schools, they can actually like be more ahead of a time of the private schools. Even though they're spending all that money, I'm still realizing that private school students, they're not learning about real life finances. So when they're graduated, they're behind just like public schools. And I believe that in order so the public schools have a better reputation, and maybe we can keep the kids because you have a curriculum that's preparing them for real life. And so that will...
Carlos, thanks for your call. Appreciate it. He's right, and it's a good thing that you're doing
this
that.
week on the financial markets, everyone has to be educated because look what's happening to our money.
Definitely. Well, we want to thank you, Mary Ronan, for joining us, and hopefully we'll have you back again, every few months to just bring us an update on what's going on in Cincinnati Public Schools.
I would love to come back because I forgot to tell you, we have a seniors to sophomore program, and next week we have 11 of our high school, 11 students from 8 high schools going off to the University of Cincinnati next week.
That's a good program, and pretty much those kids will be going to college.
They will get their 12th grade English credit and their first year of college rolled into one.
That's a great program, so try to get more people into college with this program, and that's great. Well, thank you for joining me this morning. We appreciate it. We'll take a quick break, and we'll come back and wrap things up on Lincoln Ware Live. I want to thank Mary Ronan for joining me this morning, and we'll be back in just a few moments. And we are back live. Lincoln Ware Live is the program. Don't forget, if you can't catch us on TV, you can just log on to WBQC.com and you can see the program live. So if you know someone who can't get us on TV, but they've got a computer, just tell them to log on to WBQC.com and they can watch the show live right there on the internet. Just that simple. Coming up today at noon, Heroes Among Us, and that'll be followed by CFL football. That's today at noon on It's 38. A rebroadcast of this show tonight at 8 o'clock on WOTH Channel 25. That's a rebroadcast of this show tonight, 8 o'clock on Channel 25. And tonight at 9 on WOTH Channel 25, Professional English Soccer. It'll be the Bolton Wanderers against the Arsenal. So that's at 9 o'clock tonight. Right here on Channel 25 at 9 o'clock. So, hey, until next week, till next Sunday morning at 10 o'clock, make sure you spread the word, tell a friend, Lincoln Ware Live. Don't forget, Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 on the new 1230 AM WDBZ. I'm out.